So welcome everyone back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining us and watching this video. Today I'm joined by three amazing ladies from all over the world. So it's all different times of the day for us right now. We have the lovely Beck in America. We have Jasmine in New Zealand, and we have Shannon in Australia. And today we're just getting together to talk about our journey so far and what we've learned, what's sort of going on energetically, and how do we bring the power back to ourselves ultimately is what I'd like this conversation to be about, because we've all had different experiences. There's no right or wrong experience. And I think it's helpful for people just to listen to our stories and see what's been going on with us. So just first, I just want to ask you all how you've been the past few weeks, because I was just saying before we started recording, I've been feeling a bit blur, a bit like I've got no energy and a bit unmotivated, really. So how have you all been feeling? Like, Beck, how have you been feeling the past few weeks and months?
Well, everything ebbs and flows. Some days I wake up and I'm motivated and I'm very much tapped into all the fire in my chart, and I'm ready to go. And other days it's like work trying to peel me off the chair. I'm like, oh man. But I definitely had an elongated period of being really unmotivated and tired that started probably around late April, and it kind of continued through May. And then I went through a period of like really restless energy. And now, like today, I feel pretty mellow, like I'm pretty like even keeled. um but yeah, just like really listening to my body here lately, just like it's been urging me to rest, urging me to like really, really go within and recalibrate. I feel like I've been shedding a lot of mindsets that needed to get out, needed to go on. It wasn't serving me anymore. And of course, too, with the eclipse seasons, we just wrapped that up for a little bit until later this year, and I definitely felt the intensity of the eclipse seasons. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I never know what's going on with all of that. I probably do. I'm probably affected by it. Yeah. Oh, Jasmine, how have you been?
Well, I really resonate with everything that Beck's been saying. And so, but if I just peel back to the the middle of May, I was really aware that May was an intense month and that we were needing to deal with a lot of stuff that came up. And I follow a particular person who said that May the 18th to the 28th was the 10 days of solace, where we were to reflect on every area in our life. Probably it ties in with astrology too, I'm sure. And that at the end of that period of time, what it meant to be human is going to be upgraded. So we needed to have more, we need to look at all the areas and be really aware of that. So prior to that, I was really flat, but I got so motivated for those 10 days. I actually wrote a diary of what was going. I picked a card. I did like, practice every day. And I felt really motivated because I was really reflecting on my thoughts and, really looking at how they weren't as positive all the time, or, not, I don't want to say positive, but they weren't the way that I would have ideally liked. So that was really exciting. And then after that, I sort of the energy just went blah. So that probably is about 2 weeks ago, because that was the end of May. And then I had a flat week. And last week I sort of picked up. I did a 5-day business challenge to unstuck your business, and it sort of got me motivated. I really committed to doing that for 5 days. So this week I feel pretty good, really. Yeah.
Good. And Shannon, how are you feeling apart from tired?
Yeah, good. I'm not too bad at the minute, actually.
Good.
It being so early here. But it looks like nighttime, but it's actually morning. year, everybody. So yeah, this year is very different to last year. Last year I spent a lot of time like just doing hypnosis sessions and just growing my business and that sort of thing there. And this year, I think I'm in a number 6 year where it's all about family and like creating my space of love with my family. And I have found that I've been really in the present moment this year, and just with like everything right in front of me of what's going on in front of me. And so I feel very domesticated this year, really like family oriented, taking care of my family and that sort of thing. So I've been a little bit slower with hypnosis this year so far, but I also had to release a lot of old stuff too that was going on. And um, I've been getting regular sessions from Ian, Reiki Ian, if anyone knows who that is too. That's been really helping, like the weekly sessions with him. And then I had like a kind of a major breakthrough, I suppose, where felt really low, like really reflecting on my life and what I want and all these things. But also just, yeah, this year's been really about going inwards and finding the answers inwards rather than um, like from outer sources, really from inwards. And I think that's why I've been more in the present, because I'm finding the answers inwards and doing everything kind of day by day. And so I had this breakthrough where I processed a lot of things probably in May as well. And well, probably April actually. And then in May, I started feeling just very grateful, like for everything in my life. And like went from very like a low to I'm feeling so grateful, even and just being more mindful about gratitude. Like for instance, I was doing the dishes. I'd be like doing the dishes and saying, oh, I gotta do the dishes. And then I turn it around and say, oh, but I'm so thankful for this water in my water tank to be able to do the dishes, like I'm so thankful for my sink to be able to do the dishes. And it just like really changed my attitude around. For like a couple weeks there, I was doing that, and yeah, and then I went to this big event in town, and so many people in our area got the flu, like got really sick, like after going to this rodeo event in our area. And then so I was sick a couple weeks ago, and yeah, feeling so much better now. And I'm feeling back to how I was last year. I'm feeling motivated now and um, like ready to do hypnosis again and all that. So yeah, just I guess I needed a little break to just, get back on track with family and get settled because we moved houses and stuff. And yeah, I feel really good this week. Like I feel really happy and motivated, like Jasmine's feeling. It's so interesting how we feel a lot of the same things at the same time. And talking with you ladies really shows that like how there is a collective energy of a lot of us feeling certain ways at the same time. What about you, Kaz?
Oh, I'm just so glad I can talk to you today, because I think I've just been going through this. What I've realized, I've been going through this process of disconnecting or deprogramming myself over years. And I'm at a point now where I feel very peaceful, but also it's strange because it's very quiet within myself. There's not that kind of busy chatter anymore. And I think I'm just in the process of getting used to that. But yeah, I think it started for me, you give up the mainstream media, don't you? And then you find something else, and then you give that up. And it's just been a process of shedding all of those things. And I would just feel, like I said, I'm unmotivated, but I think in a way it's nice because it's just a feeling of peace. And like you said, Shannon, just being in the present moment more rather than thinking outside of myself.
Yeah.
So that my next question was really, what's your biggest learnings? And for me, my biggest learning has just been allowing myself to let go of all that rubbish
Yeah.
that I used to, you know, pay attention to.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
what's you guys like biggest learnings, do you think, over like the past years even? Beck, do you want to go again?
Sure. Oh gosh. I feel like I could write a book on
Yeah.
how much I've learned over the last few years, I swear. Oh man.
It doesn't have to be one thing. You could give us
Yeah.
as many as you want.
Chapter 1. No.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, and I just want to like ping off of what the three of you have said about shedding, letting go, you know, like coming back within, coming back to the present. Really finding that that is my safe space. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've realized is I've always been, you know, I'm kind of an introvert. I may seem like I'm very extroverted, but I'm kind of an introvert, and it's very important for me to cultivate a safe space for myself. You know, a place for me to recharge, a place for me to, you know, just kind of offload all of the energies that I take on, because I just like naturally take on a lot of people's energies, and realizing that it doesn't have to be a physical place, you know. And my mind was like really set on that. I was like, I have to have like a physical space where I can go to, but realizing that, you know, there's going to be times where you just can't do that. Like you can't get away and you're like in the muck, and or you're really busy, or you're surrounded by people. And I've realized that going within, like within, is my safe space. And that might sound corny, but that's just like, that was a really big realization for me. And so in order for that space to be what I need it to be, I have to really be diligent about my energetic hygiene. You know, that has come up so much, you know. And I love how, you know, I was having a conversation with my friend Ashley, who I do the vibe check with, and I do a lot of workings with. And we were talking about how important that is, and how a lot of people don't really know what that looks like, or how incredibly important it is to implement that in your everyday life. And so I would say that's my second thing, is like understanding the gravity of energetic hygiene. Because as we move more and more, you know, into like the age of Aquarius, into the future, especially with 2027 kind of looming over us, which is going to be a huge elevation in consciousness. It's going to be, you know, we're going to have, you know, this basically like a new species of human coming in that are going to be like elevated. It's going to be more important than ever for us to keep our energy, you know, even keeled, and to teach them how to do that as well. So it's like, it's not just for now, it's not just for the present, it is for, you know, the future that's being created in every moment. And I would say another big lesson has been letting go. And I know that, gosh, I mean, that's probably one of the key elements of my own personal life path. You know, Shannon was talking about her personal numerology of the year, and my life path is 9. And so that's one of the big lessons that I came into this life to learn, is how to let go, how to release, and trust that however things unfold is how they're meant to unfold. And so that's been a slow going, you know, that's been, you know, something that I've had to implement in sections, but that's a big lesson. Like I'm seeing the beauty of it, you know what I mean? Like I'm really seeing how necessary it is, and how sometimes when you let go, like it allows like even more to come back, you know, come back to you. So just trusting that process.
Yeah. Thank you. Jasmine, what about you? Are you?
Well, Beck's covered a lot of things that I really resonate with as well. But the ones that really stand out for me. So we're looking over our whole life, or just more recently, our whole life.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. So a big one for me is it's that it's an inside job, because I've had, like, over my life, I was very anxious, a lot of fears. I was just one of those kids, scared of the dark, scared of spiders, had nightmares, scared of everything. And it's taken me a lot of time to get to where I am by undoing it. And there's so many different ways to address that, but one of them was that I became a naturopath like 30 years ago, and I started studying 30 years ago, and I tried all these different things to try and manage my anxiety, for example, or whatever. And then I realized that it actually is an inside job. You can do your affirmations and you can do your visualizations and all of that, but at the end of the day, you have to work on your trauma and where it came from. And that's really liberating. And yeah, so that's been a big thing for me. Another one is part of that whole anxiety thing is really, which we've all been talking about, learning to live in the moment. So I was one of the most, I've got two children, one's in their 30s and one's in their 20s. And I was like super worried, being a Cancerian as well, thinking that it's going to be easy. I'm going to be the perfect mother because we're a crab and we're nurturing, and then finding that no, it's actually really challenging being a parent. It's super challenging, as you know. And yeah, so I worried about everything. And I remember teaching my son to drive when he was about 17 or 16, so he's 24 now, and at being so terrified, I'd be putting the brakes on in the car all the time. I was just terrible. But I really had to learn to live in the moment and to realize that 99.9% of what we worry about doesn't happen. And I'm so much calmer now after going through those journeys, and I don't worry about my kids now like I used to. And in this whole energetic thing I was just talking about a couple of weeks ago, I had a real epiphany, and it doesn't sound like much, but it was actually like on a cellular level. I was just having a shower and I suddenly realized the only moment we have is right now. It's just everything that we worried about things happening to people in the last few years, it hasn't happened. And all that wasted energy that we can actually use in such a different manner. So that was a real big epiphany the other day that I had. And the other one I wanted to mention quickly was that just about the whole letting go, the programming, that it's been a real mindset shift for me the last couple of years, but just looking at different things and then suddenly realizing, it's actually, programming is in every single area of our lives. And yeah, that's been a really big shift for me, because you sort of think, well, who am I? And yeah, anyway, I can talk about that later when we move on.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm trying to make notes here so we can come back. Shannon, how about you?
Yeah, mine's
What your
been
biggest
similar
learning?
and really well said, both of you as well. Yeah, there's been a few things for me as well, and one of them's been that the being in the presence has been a big thing, like I said before. And so I feel at peace, sort of like you do, has as well, peace within myself and quiet as well, because I've kind of reached that state. I think a lot of us hypnosis practitioners are probably, going through that process where, before hypnosis, we were finding, um, maybe answers outwardly. And now hypnosis and being in the theta state and all that has really taught me to go inwards for the answers instead of outwardly as well. And just trusting in our own intuition and trusting in ourselves and how we feel rather than, finding the answers externally. And by being in the present moment as well, because I was always even as a mom, which wasn't that great for my children. It's like I was always living in the past or the future. And so that was really affecting my now being like that, because when you're living in the future or the past, you're not really living in the moment at all. Really, you're just planning for the future, or you're thinking, in the future, I'm going to do this, or you're worrying about things that maybe happened to you, like Jasmine was saying, dealing with trauma with things that happened to you in your childhood or your past. And yeah, now I feel very at peace with support. Like I've processed that, and I feel very at peace with like things that have happened in my past. And yeah, like I don't really worry too much about the future, and just yeah, all about being in the presence as well has been probably a big one, the major theme for me, and getting it to that place where I can be there and not living in the past or the future, but the now as well. So yeah, probably been the biggest thing for myself. Yeah. Yeah. What about you,
Yeah.
Kat?
Well, I was going to say, I think that's a good shout about the, just letting go of all the trauma, because it's not just the programs, is it? It's all that trauma and the feelings of guilt and shame that we've carried. I'm allowing myself just to release all of that as well, because it's done, right? There's nothing you can do to change it.
Yeah.
So why do we feel we have to carry these feelings? And of course, doing the sessions on other people is also therapy for me too, because I learned so much in these sessions as well about just releasing all that trauma. So yeah, I thought that was a really good point. So my next question I had was, how do we liberate ourselves from the psychology that keeps us disempowered? But it could be the psychology that makes us feel we have to hold on to the guilt and the shame and everything else. How do we kind of disconnect from that and bring that power back? Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I love this question, because I mean, this is a lot of, what I work with in my sessions, and the people that I work with, they have been through a lot of trauma. They've been through a lot of things, and it has conditioned them, and it's like the programming starts at birth, right? Like we're born, and it's like, oh, look at this little baby. What can I project onto this baby right now? And then we'll change its diaper, and so you're like coming to this world, and you're already being projected upon and having all these expectations, like, here, meet your milestones, and if you don't meet your milestones, there's something wrong with you. It's like there's nothing inherently wrong with us, and then as we go through life and we start to experience trauma, and we experience the conditioning from the world that we're forced to live in, we have to be extremely, what's the word I wanted to use, intentional. We have to be extremely intentional about how we decide to break that cycle, because it's a cycle, right? It just keeps on, and it like snowballs and perpetuates, and before we know it, like, we don't even know who we are, and like, we're whole adults, we don't know who we are. We've just been told our whole lives. And I think probably the first step is just realizing that, and just being like, okay, I see, like, I see why I feel this way. I see why I think this way. I see how my trauma has shaped me, but this doesn't have to be my identity, So, like, I feel like that in itself is empowering, and being like, I am here. I'm going to take back my identity. I'm going to take back my power. I'm going to take back my sovereignty, because that is my birthright. Right. So just making the decision and being intentional about the steps that you take going forward. I don't feel like there's one right way. I feel like it's individualized for each of us. But when I'm working with clients, and of course I can't share any real examples, but I will say that the ones who take those intentional steps, and they're very mindful about the steps that they take, you know. They are very mindful about boundaries. That's another, I would say that's another really big thing, is like the first thing you got to do is start cultivating boundaries, because there's so many of us that don't have any. You know, we're like exposed, you know, we're out here exposed, you know. And going back, you know, into relationships, like that's where a lot of our trauma comes from, having boundaries in our relationships, you know, having boundaries in our interactions with people, and just like kind of relearning. So I'd say that would be the third step, is like relearning, like reparenting yourself, like learning how to nurture yourself. Being your own advocate is extremely important. But all of this would not come to form. None of this would happen if we don't make that decision for ourselves and decide, like, you know, regardless of how we might feel about it right now, we know that in the end it's going to be worth it, and that healing is a lifelong journey too, right? It's not going to come to us in a nice little wrapped up package. Like, we're going to have to work for it, not being afraid of that hard work. So I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Beck. It's great.
Thank you.
Jasmine.
Wow. How can we follow that? Excuse me. Yeah, well, it's like we've all got our unique answer and approach. But yeah, that's all totally, I agree with everything that Beck said. And I feel that it's like we need to find our identity first. We need to like, which is the whole boundary thing, you know, like pressing up against the others and the world, and actually realize that, or have a willingness and being open to learn, being willing to see who we are and look at those things. Because a lot of people have, what that I've observed, myself included, you know, low self-esteem or self-worth. And then once you can realize that we're all here, we're all unique on our own journey, that's actually quite empowering, I feel, that then we learn to take responsibility for our actions. And I mean, I love learning about everything, but not everyone's the same. It's acknowledging that everyone's different too. So I think people need to develop realize how unique they are, and that we've all got our own purpose, and then develop their own unique practice. And also, like, connect with your own intuition. For example, I grew
Yes.
up with no idea about intuition, actually, or no, because I was my family weren't into that sort of thing. And then I remember when I was having my daughter, who, as I said, was 33, and we had this midwife come in. I was in the hospital, and I wasn't induced, but I was in this labor ward, and she said, "Oh, just connect with your baby and with your intuition, and you know, you'll know when the baby's meant to come in." And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was really interesting. And now I look back at those sort of landmarks that I like to reflect on now, of how it taught me to just have a different relationship with the world, I guess. Yeah, so if you carrying on with that, learning to connect with your intuition, I find that one way I know that I'm following my guidance is when I'm buying a property. I always know, okay, I can look within or register within, and I know that that's the right thing. And it's funny that was my sort of first thing. It wasn't like it was quite a big thing, you know. I guess that was such an obvious way of knowing that I've made the right choice, that it became a sort of landmark for me with going back to that feeling. Yeah, so that's what I've got to add.
I love that. Thank you, Jasmine.
For me, I think a lot of it was leaving the rat race, for me and my family as well. And there's nothing wrong with the rat race, but I've always, even since a child, just been really a person that looks outside of the box. I wasn't the type of kid to if, you know, if someone was being picked on, or if someone said, oh, we don't like this person for this reason, to follow along. So I've always, um, I guess, kind of made my own opinions about people and about things and about life and different government, different things in the world, always. And I guess for me, a big thing in the last so many years was um, just escaping the rat race. And I think doing that to really helped me disconnect from outside sources. But I'm with you, Kaz, where like I was like watching all this stuff, right? And um, the last couple years, and these different people on YouTube and different things. And yeah, now I don't feel I need to do that as much anymore. I'm more into things that interest me, like what were the topics that we talk about on our channels and things like that. Because it's more about creating the future and how we are doing as a collective, and it's more positive than the fear mongering and all that stuff that has happened the last few years and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think for me and myself, I kind of had to I left the rat race, and because like what Beck was saying, it's just a cycle that goes around and around and around. And that's not to say that you don't have routine. It just means, you know, I just had to pull my kids out of, you know, the societal things and go, okay, I'm going to do it my way. And I've said for years about part of the reason why I did naturopathy as well, because I was finding through the medical systems and things that you'd go to the doctor or something, and the doctor would say, oh, that's normal. Oh, like, you know, polycystic ovarian syndrome, that's normal. Like, it's not normal just because, and you get that so much from the medical, oh, that's normal, happens to so many people and all of that. And so I started to realize, like, just because something is common doesn't make it normal, right? And we need to look at that with everything that's going on in the world right now, that just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And when you know, have that kind of mindset, you think, okay, something's not right here. And yeah, so for me, it's just, yeah, been everything that you ladies have said. And yeah, just disconnecting from all these societal things of, yeah, that's a big one for me, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal and that sort of thing. So yeah, and everything you ladies have said too.
I was going to say that too. You're all so good at speaking. I love it.
They're amazing.
For me, it's been just stop relying on other people. That's how I've kind of liberated myself. And I always thought I was quite a liberated person till we had the whole lockdown situation. I've realized I was really traumatized by that in my own way. And in that process, I realized it's because I've been relying on other people, and I need to just disengage from that. And I didn't realize how deeply ingrained that relying on others was for all sorts of things. And so I'm working, it's a work in progress, isn't it? All of this,
Yes.
to just, every time I catch myself thinking, oh, I need somebody to do that, I'll just, you know, come on, Karen, do it yourself. You don't need them. You don't need their acceptance. You don't need them to do anything for you. And especially through the whole lockdown, there was so many people I was like really disappointed in. But ultimately, it's our own journey, isn't it? And these are all lessons, I guess. So I think I really want to touch on now, like going forward, how do we tell the real from the fake? You know, I don't know if you guys see this happening, but I could watch something on like the telly or see something, and I'm like, how do I know if that's real anymore? I don't know what's real. How do we tell what's real and what's fake? I mean, I'm sure maybe we've got our heads around some of it, but a lot of people are. It's going to be confusing as technology moves forward, right? It's pretty bad as it is, but as the technology gets more and more advanced, I just think things just going to start bleeding in. How's that going to work? What's your reckon, Beck?
Yes, I think we saw a snippet, when, and I'm going to talk about astrology again, but when Pluto went into Aquarius, now it's retrograded back into Capricorn, but I feel like, and I notice these patterns now, and I see like we got a touch, just a taste, like you said, of what AI is going to be like, going forward. Like that's going to be our existence. We're going to get more and more in depth into those things. We're going to have more technological advances and things like that. So yeah, it probably will be tricky trying to navigate through that. And I mean, the only thing is actually I'm going to touch on something Jasmine said about like developing your intuition. When something doesn't feel right, when it doesn't seem right or sound right or look right, there's probably not right. Something's off about it energetically, and I feel like that's going to be our greatest asset and tool in differentiating between the two going forward.
Yeah,
totally. But I mean, I'm sure there's other things that that will have to contend with and develop, as time goes forward. But I would say that would be the biggest thing. And we need to develop our intuition anyway, because we haven't been using it for the longest time. We really need to allow it to come back online.
So how do we do that? Just to go.
So right. So well, and Shannon, you were talking about how you were leaving the rat race, right? And you were talking about like kind of disconnecting from this like mainstream idea of what life looks like. And I'm sure that, once you did that, like it definitely like altered your perception, right? Like you kind of saw things differently once you started doing that. And I feel like disconnecting from a lot of mainstream ideas, disconnecting from, once again, and I feel like all of this is tied in together. Everything that we're talking about, I feel like it's totally like layers upon layers, and it's all interconnectedness. But I feel like developing our intuition first starts with us like pulling back and like looking at the bigger picture and seeing, it's like, okay, well, this is the way it's always been, but is it always working? And if we're going to evolve as humans, if we're going to evolve as a species, like we're going to have to look at the bigger picture. I feel like that's the first step. And then moving forward, developing your intuition, like I said, it looks different for everybody, but it's mainly to do with perspective. It's mainly about like getting out of all the noise, pulling yourself away from everything that is causing these thought loops in your head, that all of these things that make you feel small and make you feel like, well, that's not based on logic, but I just feel a certain way about it. So not necessarily saying completely disconnect from logic. We're going to have to contend with our ego-ness as long as we're in this matrix reality, but I feel like I'm rambling, but I think that is, yeah, I feel like developing our intuition looks different from everybody, but it's first about pulling away from the cyclic thinking, and pulling away from what is mainstream, what is considered normalized. Like Shannon, you were also talking about like you would go to the doctor and they would say, oh, that's normal. Well, it's not normal, it's normalized, right?
Yeah.
Pulling away from what is normalized. We're really gonna have to get out of our heads too. We're gonna have to get synced down into our bodies as well. We've like we're like all walking around with like floating heads at this point, because we're not connected to our bodies. We don't listen to our bodies.
Totally.
One thing I've noticed is, I'll be reading a story or watching a video, and these people are like, I had no idea I was sick, but they had all these symptoms, and it's like your body's talking to you, listen to it. That's also how we connect to our intuition, is through our physical body, through the sensations, like allowing that to come back online.
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Jasmine, how do you think we sort of navigate the tech going forward? Have you got anything to add on to Rebecca?
Yeah, I have actually. I have. Well, I was just thinking about the analogy of my own journey in the last few months, or years, sorry, is how I think yes, we have to develop our intuition and our gut feeling and learn to switch off from all the noise out there and go within. I mean, you can go like we moved rurally and we live off grid, and that's been we've still got the internet, so but like just looking at all the info on social media, there was this and then there was that and then there was another thing in the last 3 years specifically I'm talking about, and all the learnings that I had going down different rabbit holes. And I remember looking at something and then showing my partner about different things of like flat earth or whatever, different things that we've gone on, and just seeing how people's minds are blown, and but then because I love researching, like I think we all probably do here, then looking at there's this whole gamut of stuff and who knows what's true and what isn't true. And then I think I got full up this year where I absolutely could not watch a video. I couldn't listen to anything, and which is what you guys have all been talking about as well. And we are in a 7-year, so maybe that's that. We're having to go within and really search for our own answers. But for me, it was like I could watch 10 minutes or something, and then I'm like, I can't take anything in. I can't absorb it, and so I really had to. I think that was my guidance telling me, no, you've got the answers. And I guess doing the hypnotherapy and really learning about going within has been a real help in learning to navigate that inner world. But also I've noticed, like, you see the AI pop up everywhere. I think we have to really learn about being observant about what we see or what's coming up. And I've also noticed over the years there's a green screen there, or look at the photo of someone. Actually, we've seen that photo somewhere else. And this is in alternative media just as much to me. Well, maybe that's not right. Maybe alternative media's got the, because I think everything can be infiltrated, or everything can be. We've got so many perspectives. We don't know what's really real. So going back to, is it real or is it fake? That can be quite, which reality are we choosing to be in? That's actually what I think I go back to, because so many different options and so many realities, we don't necessarily have to make sense of them all. I feel I need to choose what's going to be real for me. What do I want to align with moving forward? And maybe me, seeing that there's a green screen, or maybe that's my choice and my reality that I want to choose. So yeah, I guess you can sort of get yourself in a bit of a loop with that too. But that taking the bird's eye view is really important. So when if I'm thinking about, all this information's coming at me and people are talking about stuff, I'll go back to, what does that feel like? How does it sort of resonate with all the different options? And where do I want to go with that? And I've been following some really interesting people on Instagram, and Kaz has introduced me to one of them, and I just love it. It's just like, can I mention it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So there's two. There's now I've forgotten her name. What's her name?
I've forgotten as well.
Oh gosh. Well, there's two.
I hadn't watched her for a little while. The one about colour and
human vibration.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another one called the Gentle Mentalist, and she just puts things up about everything to do with words, to do with mirror, to do with, all these different ways of looking at things. And I don't understand that it yet. But I just like looking at it. And she talks a lot about what's fake and what's real, which actually, and then there's another one called the Improbable Dreamer, who's you see everywhere. And they put up something which said, is it an AI generated image that you're looking at? Because now we can have articles written by AI as well. And apparently you can easily go and double check by reversing it. I did get told in the comments, because I actually put a comment saying, well, how do you actually do that? But there's an app that you can reverse the image to see, or search where it actually came from. So that's something that I'm going to have a look at one day. So yeah, so I don't know if that's confused people or not, but that's my little story
good.
around that.
No, it's brilliant. Thank you.
I think, Jasmine, you're right. Like there's the, I suppose, truther movement that has totally been infiltrated. And I think, leading up to the January 6th thing that happened, I remember watching these people who were called themselves white hats and this and that, and saying, like, we're saying this is what's going to happen. And then after watching these people for a period of time who you thought were kind of on your side or the light side or whatever, that they were saying a lot of things that were going to happen and didn't happen. And after the January 6th thing, I just was like, wow, like I stopped watching so many people. That was kind of a call for me at that time. And then also just this past year as well, probably in the last 8 months or so too, it's like I've had this second call of, even within like the alternative media as well, or truther movement, of realizing that people are still doing that, and they're still creating a lot of fear. And I think that there are things to be look out for and to be aware of, whether that creates fear in people. For some people it will, and for others not so much. But it's yeah, I think with the technology thing as well, with the AI, I often think about how the Essenes used to live, and what I've learned about the Essenes and how they had this technology from crystals and different things. They're able to generate electricity and have lights in their community, and different things that were generated through crystals and through energy. And like, just studying biochemistry, I did a biochemistry course lately, and everything is electricity. I just down to the tiniest atom. And so we don't really need AI, really, in a way, when we have this technology, I think, in our natural world, to be able to have these things. And I think going forward in the future, when all of this knowledge of what the Essenes had, the knowledge they had in other, dating back to Atlantis and Lemuria and different times, and as it comes back online, I think we're going to see this, not a battle, but like this different pull of this AI side, artificial side, technology side, and this going back to this natural technology of what they used to use, the Essenes and other cultures used. And hopefully we end up more on the natural side, where we've learned that, all these different metals and things that, like, there's electricity in everything, and how we can harvest that electricity from just all the natural elements that are already here on our planet, that Mother Earth has given us. And I think the Creator has created everything perfectly, and given us everything that we need here on the planet, like every plant for every health element. And the metals and the, you know, gold, silver, excuse me, copper, everything that have given us all the resources to be able to do these things naturally, hopefully. So, you know, when Laura Whitworth talks about like AI not being of this universe, it's like, well, if we didn't have the artificial intelligence, yeah, hopefully we'd be able to figure these technologies out more in a natural way. So hopefully we'll move forward in that way. And yeah, I think that coming back to being in the presence and creating a life, like where do you want to go forward on your path? Like I've noticed on TV ads and things like that, they're really targeting the teenagers. Like here in Australia, they're saying, they got this commercial of like pay ID. Like, isn't it so cool? You can pay your friends now, like get your pay ID and then you can just transfer money to your friend, like with your pay ID. And it's like tricking these teenagers into thinking that the digital ID that they have going on over here in Australia is like cool and it's like a good thing and all these things. And yeah, and I think, you know, we have to think, is this taking us away from like where we're, you know, meant to be? But I mean, everyone's on their own direction. There's people that are totally into that, you know, who love it. And then there's some of us who are just, we're going, no, you know, like that don't even want to go there. And
My time.
yeah, I've always been like, I've really, being an Aquarius, really enjoy my freedom. I don't like to be told what to do or held down and that sort of thing too. So any thought of any control or anything, I'm like, I'm out of here. Like, no, no one's gonna tie me down. And that goes back to Beck was saying with your sovereignty and everything like that. Like the kids and I, we're just like so excited at the same time to learn all these skills that make us stand on our own 2 feet. Like you were saying, Kaz, not relying on other people. We're excited to do archery in the back paddock and like just, you know, gardening and doing all these things and learning all these skills to be sovereign human beings. And it's everything. There needs to be a total like 2020 and like everything that happened in the last few years has just been the start of it. There's so much that needs to be purged still, like the banking system. You know, it's like houses. Okay, you're going to buy a house, average house price is like $1 million here. It's ridiculous. And you go, okay, but the house price is the way it is because we allow it to be that price. We as humans are allowing university to cost $80,000 because we're supporting it. We're agreeing to it. And what we have to do is stop agreeing to these contracts with people, stop agreeing to how things are in society if we want to see it change and go a different way. Like they wouldn't be able to, all the universities would shut down if everyone said, no, I'm not willing to pay $80,000 for a university degree and come out with this big debt. No, I'm not willing to buy a house for $1 million. You know, but it's like, how do we get there? I think it's you know, there's still this purging. It's like us with our birth certificates and our, you know, how our taxes, like how we're being taxed on our paycheck, and then every dollar we spend at the shop, we're being taxed on. It's like, in a way, we're all allowing this to happen, but we're going to have to start thinking of creative ways to get out of that, to how can we create in the future going forward, how we can purge those things and get away from those things so that we can create this life as, you know, as a collective, but also individually where we stand our own 2 feet as well, not being reliant, but at the same time, it's also going to have to be somewhat of a collective thing. And I think how a lot of us, like Jasmine, you're saying, I can't watch this stuff anymore. We have to stop as a collective looking for someone to save us, waiting for a group of people who are going to come in and say, like, still all these Trump supporters and stuff. We like stop waiting for someone like Trump to come in and save you or this and that. Like, we have to make it happen ourselves. And I think some of the stuff that happened with how they tried to stop travel to the States and all these into different countries, Canada, like Justin Trudeau, and not to get political and stuff, but we have to just like collectively go, no, we're not waiting for a group of politicians or this and that to come in and do the right thing and try and elect people. We need to do it ourselves. And I think with the trucker convoy and all these things, like where I kind of could see what was going on right at the beginning of 2020, and it was like screaming, like, why can't people see what's going on? To then, seeing these huge protests and change and what's going on in France and different areas. I find people in the UK are really good. When you see you see like this video of this person like taking down a camera, and I'm not, telling people to go break the law or anything, but people are waking, like they're starting to realize that these things are not going to serve us, and we need to move forward into, and really, really, think about your freedom and how you want to move forward as a society, I guess. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my little, sorry, off on a tangent.
I agree. I feel like we've been so babied, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we've got so used to, like, people expect everything just to be handed to them on a plate in a way, but there's a price to pay for that too.
Yes.
And I guess I don't know what it will be that breaks the camel's back, but I think it needs to be something. It's so silly. We have these like robots here in Cambridge, little food delivery things. They're like this big.
Gosh.
So you can order your groceries from the local shop because it's not far. They travel about 3 miles an hour. And then you see they get stuck at the traffic lights for ages.
Goodness.
They don't know what they're doing. You could just get somebody on a bike to cycle it in, 2 minutes. It's really bizarre. It doesn't work. But that's how lazy people are. It's like, why? You'd be quicker to walk to the shop and just buy the bread and milk.
Yeah.
I guess it's a bit of a novelty, but
initially.
Yeah. Hey, Kaz, you know how you're talking about the food thing? Like, one of the things too lately I've noticed, like, I've been going to the grocery store and looking at in the ingredients of everything. And, I ordered some bacon the other week, and, they just said it was bacon, right? And I got it home and I started cooking it, and I didn't look at the ingredients, and I thought, this does not even look like real bacon. And I'm looking at the ingredients, and it's like 75% pork, and then all these numbers and chemicals. Like, we're being poisoned in every aspect of our life, like not just with what's happened, but I've been going to the grocery store lately and looking at everything, and I'm like, there's literally maybe 5 items in this whole huge massive grocery store that hasn't been poisoned in some way. There is no natural food. And I think, us that are into gardening, and it's like, but this stuff is forcing us, to go, okay, we're going to start our own garden. And then by starting your own garden, because you don't want to be poisoned anymore, it's like, well, that's helping you be independent and sovereign from the system as well. Just wanted to add that in because you were talking about food. And I thought that's something I've really been noticing a lot, is like, we're being poisoned in the air. We're being poisoned in our water. We're being poisoned in the food. And, let's move forward and try and find some ways where we're not being.
But people don't notice though. They're too busy because life doesn't get easier with all this tech. It seems to get harder.
Yeah.
You know, people are expected to work more, everything's more expensive. It's like, when does it get easier?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, I've loved chatting to you ladies. It's been really good. And I think the message we want to give people to take away is kind of trust your intuition, like play around with that because it's a skill and a practice. Disconnect from anything that doesn't make you feel good. And anything else, like any last words you guys want to add?
Could I just add that I feel if people know what their purpose is and why they're here, that can help focus them on their journey, and they can be less distracted by, like, when you really know what you're here for, it's easier to let go of all of that stuff and do your purpose with people. So for me, that's a big Eve.
And knowing that we're not really this body.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
What about you, Beck? Have you got anything you'd like to kind of end on?
Yeah. So, first of all, like, amen to, to what Shannon said, for sure. But I would say, especially to people who are, relatively new on their journeys and they're awakening and they're like starting to, maybe figure out who they are, what their gifts are, try not to get overwhelmed by that. I know it's easy to do, I mean, we're already overwhelmed in every other aspect of life. However, start simple is probably my biggest piece of advice on that. Start simple on, building your gifts. Start simple on, you know, just to piggyback off of what Shannon said, starting your garden. Take these like simple but very solid steps, in the direction. I mean, because it's not, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So it's like the saying goes. Start simply and just like don't bombard and overwhelm yourself and like I said, go back into that shame cycle where it's like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not being enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Start small. And those steps are going to add up. They're going to add up. If you do something every day that'll get you closer to your sovereignty and get you closer to where you really in your soul know where you want to be, then that's a step well worth it. And and if you backtrack, if you fall off the wagon or whatever, just get back on it. Like don't let the fear of falling off the wagon or that you might do that stop you. And that could truly go for anything in life, anything that you want to cultivate for yourself.
Yeah. And I suppose I just want to say with the purpose thing as well, and add on to both of that, this one quick thing is that you can find purpose in everything that you do as well. Like so many people get depressed and focus on the one thing that they need, the one purpose that is their one purpose in this lifetime. And if you do that, you can miss out on the whole learning journey from the beginning of your life to when you feel as though you do end up learning that one purpose. But we are continually here learning. So I don't think necessarily we have one purpose, but to find purpose in everything that we're doing is, a good way to look at it so you don't feel so depressed. But Jasmine's right, it's really important with your well-being, your vitality to prevent disease and things like that, to try and find purpose. And if you are in a rut, like Beck was saying, baby steps, just put one foot in front of the other, start small, like Beck said, just one little thing at a time. And it's just so rewarding as well to even just start off with one plant and one seed and watch it grow. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
This has been such an amazing chat. I've loved it. Thank
Me
you.
too.
And Shannon, we can see that lovely sunset
I
now
know,
behind
it's
you.
funny, eh? It was so dark.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you guys didn't hear the roosters crowing in the background the
No.
whole time. I could hear my neighbor's roosters.
I really appreciate you all taking the time today, and I hope we can do it again. There's like
Yeah.
so many things we could talk about, isn't there?
Yes,
Yeah.
we could have a whole catalog.
So I just want to check out everyone's channels and, you know, I'll leave information in this video, but check out everyone's channels, subscribe, like this video and share it because it's really good information that should be shared. I love you ladies so much. Thank you.
Love
Thanks.
you. Thank you for
Thanks for
having
joining
me.
me.
Yeah, you too,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.
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 Yeah.